record. Here we go. Awesome. And I will also ask you guys to please make sure that your phones and your computers are on mute unless I ask for you to unmute yourself. So just an FYI. All right. Well, good morning and welcome to Pure Color Foiling. And today I'm happy to share with you some great tips and tricks on foiling over my last 30 years. So I hope I'm going to share some great things that you'll be excited about to take with you. And we're going to learn a little bit about pure color today as well. And I've got lots of fun stuff to show you. So with that, we believe that nature provides the best ingredients for hair color. Love your color, beautiful, easy, lasting, and healthy. I am going to share more about pure color with you today, but our focus today will be more on technical and highlighting skills. And with that, guys, just make sure I hear some feedback back there. If we could make sure our phones are on mute. What we'll learn today is learning key principles for foil applications. We'll learn some foil technical skills, as well as I'll share some hot tips on foiling techniques. And I'll share with you some usage of color additives during your foil application that will help you keep that hair looking absolutely amazing from color to color. And we'll learn some knowledge on our pure color. So with that, some foiling principles that you'll hear me talk about today is that I'll always lay the lip of the foil to the back of the foil, and then that way I can snug it closer to the scalp area where the color is being applied. I'll always refer to the shiny side to the back of my foil. This is for allowing better heat conduction, so that we get better lift within the hair. And you'll hear me say using a foil on foil application if the hair is longer lengths, or I'm using melting techniques as I don't want to fold one color into the other. And with that, we could use an optional board to support our foils during our application. The width of your section should be less than the foil that you're working with, allowing you room to fold in your sides to close in that packet. If the section is too wide, sometimes what happens is you hit the bend of the scalp and you get that lift away, so you can't get as close in those corners. So we just want to make sure that we always keep that in mind. Partial foils include the hair above the ridgeline with optional framework. I'll share a little bit more information on that. And then, of course, fringe or spot foiling is typically 5 foils or less. With that, build your roadmap, treat your head as a whole, use directional foil placements to decorate or enhance a haircut, and work horizontally across the part line. You'll see me do this in one of the applications, really helping to have that hair open up on both sides evenly. Now, if someone wears their hair down the middle and they like to wear it side to side, of course, we can go right down the middle, but I always like to have that over the part line, then it opens up really nicely. Some highlighting principles as we treat the head as a whole. You hear us say this whenever we're doing cutting, finishing, and we take it right into our color as well. So anything above the ears, I always like to make sure that we take it temple to temple and work all the way around the head, giving a seamless look. So whether you're balayaging or you're foiling, this will give you that application. Now, as you can see here, this is my fancy partial foil that I do very often in the salon. For the top is I'll work right along the ridge line in a horizontal. What this does is it creates a nice blend as I use a softer weave so that I don't put too heavy of a streak in there. So it softly transitions from darker to light. Then I will take that right across the part line, helping that to open up, as you can see in the picture on the right. And then I'll usually have a corner that I like to fill in, and that's usually the heavier spot if I'm working with a side part. Foil application, you'll see me work in a horizontal mode first, usually in about an inch away, and then that's where I work to get that heaviest saturation or middle saturation. Then I'll work into a vertical brush to be able to feather it into that root area so that it's nice and soft. Then I'll take the ends and I'll fold them over. I try not to swirl them too much because I don't want to create any knotting or teasing within that. And so just that works really, really well for me. If the hair is too long there, then I'll start using a foil on foil application. Because if I put too much hair in the foil, sometimes it prohibits it from taking well. Highlight, some low lighting should live in the same space as your highlight. This is one of the things that I absolutely changed my whole mode going into highlighting, even as an experienced highlighting, is I always felt when I was placing in my low lights like I was not getting enough highlights. And so I would try to do like every 1 to every 2 or 1 to every 3, or I would even do a foil and then go back in and place my low lights. And when someone shared this with me, I was like, aha, they should live in the same space. So you take one slice, weave them, and then one lives your low light, the other becomes your highlight. And usually we place the low light in back of the highlight so that the highlight looks more important or shows off. You can work in different directions. So I love to work directionally. I always feel that the more that I can work within that haircut or the design of the finish and the haircut that I'm working on, the more that that's going to be shown off with my color placement. So I'll use a horizontal placement when I want to create more blended results. And usually when I'm transferring from a darker or a short cut where there's going to be some dark underneath, and then a lot of times I'll move into a vertical placement. Now, as you can see, you can almost see I deliberately put blow dry this so that you could see exactly where I placed them, but they came all from the same point so that when I worked through it, it has that nice separation. You can see the depth underneath, and that for me works really, really well. Framework creates soft diffusion around the hairline. Adding highlights around the hairline gives the appearance of a full highlight when we're only doing a partial. A hot tip here would be creating a heavier frame. We would start with a weave at the hairline so that it's soft, and then we could move into a slice behind it and maybe even another weave following it, again, to maintain that softness. If you use a zigzag weave, and I will be showing you all this, so I'm just taking you through the nuggets that we're going to learn today at the hairline, but not allowing the comb to actually break through the section. So you can see here as I've taken out the entire frame and we've started working with weaving techniques just around the frame. So I'll usually work this around first, especially if I'm just doing a partial highlight. This is a really great trick so that when they pull their hair up, it's soft. It also gives that illusion around that they've had that full work done. So you can see the first one on the left, I'm going to be showing you how to do a zigzag weave. Again, we're not breaking through the actual section, or we're just breaking through the section, but we're creating little zigzags. A traditional weave, picking up a slice, weaving it along, and then you have some other options here too. So I'm going to share these all with you in just a quick second. Of course, you have your techniques. You can work with your weave or your slice. There's a couple different ways that we'll create a slice today. So mostly what I'm going to be showing you is one technique after the other. So not necessarily a full head of highlights that will be one technique. Pinwheel. This is one of my favorite things to be able to work with. And I use this, you could typically take this all the way around the head. I usually will work from about temple to temple here, and usually that front section. So it's a nice curved piece. And I divide it into 5 pie-shaped sections, and then I work on the top of each of those foils. Ideally, I could continue around the head as well, and this gives that nice separation. It gives a more concentration through that top section, and when you work with it just as you would maybe a fringe line, you can see the beautiful finish that we get here. A nice heavier foil here that was just a nice soft blend, but really taking her into some nice heavier fringe work. So with that, we'll keep moving on. You have your fine weave, chunky. You can go into your channel lights as well. A channel is going to be more of a deliberate pieces that you're picking out. And if you like it a little heavier, we can go ahead and then place one on top of the other. You have your micro foils, which are super baby fine foils, but working back to back. You have your tease lights where we're just giving a little bit of a back combing there as well. And then your faux balayage. This was actually how somebody taught me how to balayage, because I came from a 30 years of foiling, and we never really balayaged. Balayage, when I learned it very first time in high school, I was in beauty school, and they taught us to balayage literally by taking sections of hair down. They would lay a piece of cotton, lay the next piece of section down, and they'd take a bottle and they would stripe the color on, take the next section down, and keep doing that. And I was the guinea pig model for that when we learned it. And it was fun because I had one side of my hair that was very copper fury, it was called. But if I took my hair the other way, it was very soft and very more blonde. So it was kind of fun to be able to have that experience. But then that was a very different type of painting. And of course, balayage itself means freehand painting. So when we take a look at what it was 30 years ago to what it is now, it's very different. So when I first learned, I was like, I needed somebody to give me some pointers. And so she took me into a faux balayage where we just took nice heavy channel lights and we actually created our balayage within the foil. And I actually use this quite often when I don't want a very definite foil line. So it works really, really well. And your pinwheel that I just shared with you, this reminds me a little bit of that finish that I was talking about when I had mine done, because if I was to flip this over to the other side, because of the way it was placed, it's going to be much softer moving through the other side. So that might be something fun that you can work with to create a fun illusion for your guest. And again, we'll take you through some of these as well. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to backtrack in through my section, and we're going to take these one at a time. And I'm going to stop my share, and I want to open it up to any questions or things that you might have picked up that you're like, ooh, that's different, or I like that, or questions that you may have. I see Kathy looks like she's typing in the chat box. I love it. Anything at all? You guys are very quiet. Are the pictures virgin highlights? Those pictures are actually, yes, they're actually a blonde mannequin had most of those foils. There was actually no lightener used. The highlights of the pictures that I worked with that were actual people, the one blonde was actually a fresh highlight, but we've been working from a very messed up COVID due to getting her into some really nice, beautiful highlights. So awesome. We like the faux balayage visual. Perfect. All right. So let's go into some technical things here. So the first thing that I want to share with you is, and I pulled up my blonde mannequin mostly because it's easier to see. And so I want to be able to share with you a bunch of different things. So I'm just going to go ahead and start mixing up our lightener. The one thing that I did already here is I've got my pure lightener, and I've got 1 part of the powder, 2 parts of the enzyme cream activator. And we're working with 30 volume. 40 volume will get me there quicker. I don't need quicker at the moment, so I'm not too concerned about the quicker part of it. But with this, I'm going to start with some framework, and then I'll move into some different techniques that we can work with. So as you can see, just blending this with just a brush, I get a really nice consistency. Now, if you like this to be thicker, I know some stylists love their really thick lightener, rather than free pour this, because if I start free pouring my pure lightener, I am going to not get the magic from the enzyme cream activators. Instead, I'm going to work with my pure thickener, and then I can add that to it to make it as thick as I like to be able to get that consistency. You can use a plastic whisk if you like. I use that when I'm in the salon to mix this up, just if you like to be able to do that, but it does get pretty darn smooth all by itself. So as you can see, and for me, this is perfect for working with my highlights. I do have some 00 and some 7 volume blended here as well, just because I'm going to do a little bit of melting. And I do like to be able to do both of those. So this is just equal parts of 7 volume and our clear. And again, you can see the clear has a nice gel consistency to it. If I was really wanting that to be a little bit thicker or have more control, I absolutely could. One of the reasons I have it mixed up is I like to work with clear sometimes whenever I'm doing a highlight, because it will help remove impurities from the hair and help flush away any of the unwanted fragments maybe from a previous lightener, and help to brighten old highlights in between where I'm not working. But also, if the foil, like sometimes we have those guests that have such slippery hair, this is really nice to help kind of place that so that it doesn't stick. The other thing that I will be working with here are 2 of my favorite color additives. I don't know why that I lost that for a second. But the first one is going to be my Purify shampoo. And the next one is going to be my Basu mask. These are 2 things that I keep handy whenever I'm working, and I'll show you why in just a second. But I love to have those handy as well. So get your pens ready. Like I said, I'm going to share a lot of different technical things with you, not necessarily a full color placement. And I'll be working with some different materials too. I have some different foils. I have some really long ones. I like these, especially if I'm doing foil on foil applications, because they're a little thicker and a little heavier. And then of course I've got my traditional foils. I have some in the salon, we kind of, I don't want to say argue, but most of the girls like their foils really long, which is great. I love them for doing long lengths. But when I'm doing shorter, I like my wider foils. It gives me a little more security on the edges so that I can get my foils in there easily. And then the other thing I have here too, of course, is some film. And people ask, I like the foils better because you can close them up better to get a better lift. But I do like the Saran foils as well, or I guess that's what I just called them. Those film foils so that you can see everything that you're doing too. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work with a little bit of framework here in the nape area. And you can use your framework all the way around the hairline. Again, this is really going to help create a softness around the hairline, especially if the guest likes to wear their hair up. So I'll even go all the way around the head, depending on how much I'm actually going to do. If I'm working it as a full foil, I'll always start in each area. I don't necessarily go around and do my whole frame unless I want it lighter, of course. And I'll choose my volume dependent on where I'm starting. So if I'm starting in the back, a lot of times if I'm doing a full foil, I might start with 7 volumes so that I am not, so that's not moving as quickly as when I get to the front. And usually I mix probably 2 to 3 batches for a full foil, because I like to make sure that it's fresh And as I move towards the front, I'll have my 7, I might have 20, and then I might have my 30 or 40 where I'm working up front. Occasionally, I'll work front first, but I find that then they get in my way a lot more. So I like working from the nape. So I just work with my volumes a little differently, and that usually really helps. So some of the tools that I'll be working with, two is of course my repair tonic and my Babassu oil. My repair tonic, I love to mist because you can see I've got some bend in the hair, and that will give me just a little bit of smoothing to it. It's also going to help that equalize the porosity. It's going to help the lightener glide onto the hair really nicely. So, I mean, I have some different options. If the hair was needing more moisture, I would then work with my Basu oil. The nice thing is that our color and our lightener both have Basu oil and amaranth protein built into it already. But if I had somebody who had slightly compromised, or I was overlapping just slightly, I may add additional wherever is needed. So with that, we'll start here in our first bit of framework. Now, there's a couple of different ways I can go about this, and sometimes I'll take this section and I'll work with that horizontal, and I'll go ahead and just create my weave, which is very traditional. The other thing that we could do, and then I'll, lift that out of the way and I'll work here. The other thing I can do is I'll work on what I call a zigzag foil, and you'll see me do this in the New Earth collection. And where that line is, so we'll say this is our part line, is I'm working on a zigzag and I'm breaking through that line. When I do that, I'm getting a softer diffusion at the bottom because you don't see, like stripes. You see more of a softer piece. So I do like working with that quite often. In fact, my daughter got upset with me that I was sharing that secret with people because she's like, Mom, that's our secret. And I'm like, I don't know if it's not your secret, it's my secret. I've been working with that secret for many, many, many moons. Um, when I take my foil, I always like to use the shiny side to the back because of the fact that it is going to help with heat conduction. And we like our lip to the foil, or the foil to the back. And there are some people that do it on the front. Not going to argue with anyone. The reason why we like it this way, or way I like it this way, is because it allows me, if that foil should slip at all, it allows me the freedom to snug it back up. So if I've got slippery, and I work with a lot of fine-haired people, so for me that works really, really, really well. So when I work here, sometimes that neck area is really tough, and I grew up on a board. So if you're one that has grown up on a board, you can absolutely use your board. The nice thing about using a board is it just gives you a smooth support, so that if you have that section that maybe isn't cooperating, you can have a little bit more security rather than trying to hold on to it. I do like a bit of a longer board, because a longer board, when I work with a longer board, I can actually lean on my chest, that's how I grew up foiling from my mentors. So I'll go ahead and I'll start working horizontally first, and then I'll come back in and I'll work with just the tip of my brush vertically so that it's nice and soft. If I put that line up there on the horizontal line, it can be a little bit harsh. So I like to leave it a little softer. And then I'll go ahead and work through my ends. Again, the board is nice because it allows me minimal. I tend to pull harder on my own hands than I do the board. So sometimes I prefer that. When I'm folding, I try not to fold too much. Just a lot of it will depend on what I'm doing, or who I'm working on, or how their head is placed, or what areas I'm trying to get in. I think that there's many ways. Like if I'm in a fringe line, I like to double fold because I need to be able to get that out of her face. If I'm working on this area, if it's not in the bend of the neck, I might just do one, and that's okay too. I don't know if you've ever had guests where you put a nice bunch of long foils in at the base, and they move and they're leaning all over everything, and the next thing you know, half of them are falling out, which drives me crazy. So that would be a first way we could do a framework, and just doing that all the way around is going to give you a nice soft frame. And you can do one foil or you can do 2 or 3 foils depending on how much blonde you want to see or how much highlight. Now another way that you can do this is, I'm going to actually show you this on the next section. If I were to take a half, quarter inch down here, and when I work, if I start up right up at the section line and I do a V, but I'm not breaking through this section, I'm only breaking through the bottom. What I'm going to do is create a softness like you would. I'm going to try to pull this up a little closer. So see how I've got that nice soft triangle diffusion, but on top it's a slice. So when I create my slice, I'm going to be a little bit softer along the bottom. If I just put a slice at the frame, especially on the frame, it's going to be really harsh. But if I work one that is just right at that softness underneath, it's going to be a lot softer. So we'll go ahead and lay that down. We'll go ahead and work that first section. I'll go ahead and then work vertically to soften up at the top. And at the very bottom, if my ends are too long, I can go ahead and just turn that foil up a bit. And then I like to go back over vertically because I just like to make sure that I've created all that lightener into where it needs to go, especially if it's a heavier, thicker foil. And then we'll go ahead and just fold the once. We'll use our comb just to crisp those sides over. And I used to, years ago, I would do like a whole row of foils, and then I would only fold one side in, and then I'd fold the whole side together, which was nice because it saved time. But nowadays we do so much color in between our foils, it's kind of hard to do that. If you are one that struggles with color in between foils, the easiest way to do this, and because I've had people ask me, is to pull up your highlight section first. I'm old school, so I learned to put all my foils in and then go back in and apply my color, which works really well, but sometimes you miss a spot here and there, so you have to be extra careful. But if I take and I work through and I pull up my highlights first, get those out of the way, now I can go ahead and place my color down, and then I can bring down my highlight and work my foil. So keep that in mind if that makes your life a little easier. So let me show you a couple of things I like to do with my color additives, and I'm just going to be working up the middle here. I do like to work with a brick layer pattern, so as I start getting wide, I'll start working with 2 foils and then I'll work into 3. It does help to give some nice softness to that so that it's not so harsh. But I want to show you a couple of my little tricks. And so if I just pick up my next section, we're going to go ahead and just do a nice fine weave. And so I've got a pretty fine foil there. When I take my foil, let's say my guest has maybe too much, their ends they've been highlighted way too much, and I don't want to put any more color through them. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and take my lightener. Maybe I'm working through my new growth here. my mid strands. And I really, we know that those ends are still going to look like they're orangey because they've collected hard water and so on throughout. So I have two options. If I really, really, really feel I need to highlight or warm up those ends, if I use a little bit of my mask on the ends, I can then place my lightener over top of it. So that would be an option. So I might take a little bit of my mask and I'll go ahead and then work that through those ends. And then I'll take my lightener, make sure I'm only using 7 volume, and then I'll just lightly feather over top of it. That way I can break through some of that. And I'll usually at this point, anytime I change anything, I want to make sure that those ends either stay directly to the side, or if I need to, that I put another foil over top. And then I'll go ahead and I'll place my foil. Now, when that foil drops on me, I can go ahead and snug up the back again. And then I can go ahead and my foil lives a little bit nicer. On the next one, here's another little trick that you can use. Same thing is I'll use my Purify instead on my ends. So if I've got my lightener here, and then I'll go back in with my Purify shampoo on the ends. This one too, I'll make sure that I work with either a foil on foil application, or I'll go ahead and just sweep it to the side. And I'm not even too concerned if it hangs out a little, unless I'm doing other color, of course. But then I can go ahead and brighten that hair, and it just processes along with my lightener. So that's one of my biggest ones. And a lot of times, if I'm doing highlights, especially for my blondies that like blonde every single time, I'll take Purify and I put it on all this hair in between my foils. I'll add a little bit of water to it so I can lather it a bit, and then I'll just let them process with the Purify in between, and then I'll wash it all together. This hair will brighten up really nicely and will remove hard water minerals, plastics, chlorine, whatever's deposited in there. And then I don't have to go back in and put 100 foils in there, because we know our guests, they come in and they're like, I need more blonde. It was so blonde last time and now it doesn't seem as blonde. I need more. And we end up putting more foils in, where this trick, you don't have to do that, especially if you're like me and you don't have a lot of time. So we want to make sure our time is super valuable, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing it as much as possible. So here we'll come in and we're going to just start doing some different foiling techniques. And I'm going to actually switch over to a different mannequin head for the time being, because I think you'll see the pieces a little bit better here. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice right here in the middle and get this out of the way for you. Any questions so far, or ahas that you've picked up? Anybody? I can't see you, so I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Love the idea with the Purify in between and on the ends. That's genius, rather than foiling 600 foils to make them brighter.
Yep. I learned that when we were doing shows, because my thought process is everybody needs a max repair treatment before I do highlights. And I thought, can't do that. I don't have time to do, the whole Purify process. So I would do that in between, and it worked so nicely. So any other questions or thoughts? Amy says she's excited to use Purify on the ends. Jennifer said all great tips. Great. All right, so let's take a look at just some different highlighting techniques that we would use first. And first you have your, did somebody have a question? How does the conditioner on the ends still look blended? So that's a great question. And when I'm putting the conditioner on the ends, that hair has already been highlighted. So it already has a lightening, has already been lightened. When you are working with surface mask or our conditioners, there's no plastic and there's no heavy mineral oils in it. Most conditioners from other brands would have a lot of plastic in it or a heavy mineral oil, which would lay on the top and coat the hair so you couldn't penetrate through it with the lightener. This lightener will penetrate through the mask because of the fact that the mask has no plastics or heavy oils. So when I do it, I just do a very light coating of the mask for some extra protection. And from there, I use a vertical brush movement so that it blends from one to the next. So it's just really, you're relightening, and that's just one of those things we tend to do because we're like, you know, you pull up the foil and you think you're just doing this much, and then you get in there and it's like you've got all these other pieces, and then you've got some that are light and some are dark, and you've got the ends that are looking kind of orangey because they've been you know, treated with chlorine or whatever else that's in the water. And so we're going, that temptation is just, you know, we want to put the lightener throughout, right? So why not protect the ends a little bit, drop your enzyme cream activator down to a 7 volume, because it doesn't really need much. It just needs that little lift to clean that out. So more likely it's just being a gentler process. And I just had another thought too, and of course it left me. So if I come up with it, I'll let you know. So the first thing I want to do is I want to work from a finer foil to a heavier, chunkier techniques. So when I'm looking at, let's say, a microfoil, oops, someone said, Sandra said, can you substitute violet mask? I will be perfectly honest, I've not tried it. It definitely has more substance to it, so I'm not sure I would choose it, but it would be worth for me to try it to see, but I have not yet. But I will let you know if I do. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so we'll start here by doing just a really little microfoil. And when we do this, we just want to take, so as you can see, I'm just taking my comb and I'm just tipping it back and forth. And some days I do really, really well, and sometimes my old hands don't play nice. But you can see I have a nice thin, fine foil. So let's try a couple things. This hair is pretty slippery, so I'm not doing color here, so I'm just gonna place some mask there just to help me keep that foil still. But if you were doing color, of course, then I would have my color under there, and we know that that's gonna help me out. So we'll go ahead and place our foil in. I usually use the tail of my comb to help me. Once I have it steady, and when I lift, I try to lift under the lip too. So if you'll notice where my hand is, the lip is still against the head. And then that way, I'm not pulling it away either. And I can hold it closer too. Otherwise, sometimes, like I said, I like to grab my board. And when you do microfoils, we would continue to do back to back to back to back. Notice I like to lean to the right apparently, or I guess lean to the left. Maybe that's because I'm standing over here. But again, I like to be able to lift that lip up and help to snug it back up to the scalp just in case it dropped at all. And It's always the one I don't check that slipped. And it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and take in my next section. And again, I could use that zigzag weave as well. And this is what I use very commonly because I like the softness it creates. And one of the complaints I get about foils, or I shouldn't say that I get about it, but when I was learning, was some people didn't like that, real close to the scalp, even all the way across. They wanted it to be a little bit softer. So that's how I kind of started doing this more zigzag weave, because when I work with it across, it does give me a softness across the bottom because there's all the little triangles down on the bottom. So again, I can get a nice foil without losing up at the top. And we'll go ahead and start our placement. I'll go in my vertical. Again, that makes it nice and soft up at the top. Is also why I like my vertical brush at that point. And again, I can snug that right up at the top. I'll go ahead and crisp those sides together. And then we move into the next one. So the next one is just taking your normal weave, and then we're going to move into a heavier weave. And the reason why I'm showing you all these different ones, and again, some of this is very, very familiar, but be creative with it. When you're doing your foil, think about where you're placing what. Just like when you buy balayage, we're looking for depth, we're looking for separation, we're looking for direction, we want it to sweep and move with the hair. So use different techniques within your foil. Like I might do the same thing through the back, but through the top, I might have some areas where I'm creating slices, some where I'm doing a softer because they're finer. It just really depends. You'll notice sometimes with finer hair that you have to do heavier weaves too, because you want to see that separation. You almost have to exaggerate it in order for it to show on fine hair. Whereas if you are doing finer weaves, it just looks extremely blended. Like mine, we use fine weaves, so it looks very blended throughout. So take your slice. Again, you're just going to bob and weave all the way through the side here. And when I lift this, let's say I'm doing a highlight and a low light. My low light is going to live on the bottom section. My highlight's going to live on top. So with that, I'm going to clip my highlight out of the way. This will allow this to look more important and actually show up. And so again, I could use my mask if it's slipping. And we can go ahead, and then I lost my comb. And I'll go ahead and fold my foil. Let that live to the back. And then what we're going to do is we're using our clear here as my low light. So again, I'll work horizontally. I still like to work vertically. And then we'll go ahead and fold that over. I'm going to show you another sectioning in just a second here. Hold on. My brain sometimes moves a lot quicker than my hands. That's why sometimes I think I lose some of my thoughts. All right, so now I've got my highlight that's going to live right on top. This was a huge game changer for me, because when I realized that, I'm like, that is brilliant, because now I can get as many highlights as I normally do, but I can also add in my low lights. And by creating your highlights, right under, or your low light right underneath, you're going to be able to have, and fold that very well. That highlight's going to show off more. All right, so let's say that we're going to start doing some more random, in our Freedom haircut, I like a lot of movement because that has a lot of layers. And so I like to have a little bit more directional in here. So I'll use more of a triangle pattern, just like you would if you were doing balayage. But now it's on an angle. So you can see it's on a high left diagonal. We're going to do a little bit chunkier foil here. And so I'll take my section and I'll go ahead and space out my bob and weave a little bit more. That's what I feel like emboxing. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to take my foil and I'm going to fold it on a diagonal. So as my foil lives high on the left, so will my foil. Now when I do this, the foil will still live straight so that I'm not taking my foils and overlapping them, because if I was doing section by section, I wouldn't be able to get in there. So I'm going to go ahead and take that diagonal fold is going to help me to keep the foil straight, especially if you're doing around the hairline like that and you're on diagonals, then you're not in their face either. So when you fold it, I'll fold it up and then I'll usually fold it over, and then that way I can crisp the side just like I would before. And then I'll do the opposite on the opposite side. So I'll go opposite triangle. And the difference here is that you're using deliberate foils placements rather than balayage. You're directing that whole section. That's why we can keep them straight. So I'll take my next one and we'll do a channel. And a channel is just going to be a lot wider. And we'll go ahead and then pick up our foil the opposite way. So now my foil folds on a high right. We'll go ahead and let that lay down. So I'm going to put my mask down first. And then we'll go ahead and lay in our foil. So there's my straight. I can go ahead and do any of my melting techniques or otherwise. And then we're going to go ahead and halfway up on an angle. Ta-da! So now you can move those triangles as well. So if you check out, and I'll show you the placement later, but doing that will give you some different directional movement as well. And when the hair is curled, it just looks really pretty. So there's lots of different ways you can do this. So let's do a tease light and a faux balayage. So we're going to get back to doing a little bit more straight. We're going to go ahead and find our section. So I want a nice straight section. What you can do here then is take your push powder, and especially fine hair sometimes doesn't cooperate as well. And what I love about the push powder using it this way is that you don't have to worry about it, again, keep prohibiting your color from taking. So I'll take my section, I'll go ahead and once, twice, 3 times. So I don't want to do too heavy. I'm gonna do a little bit more here just because the mannequin head doesn't always play nice. But then what we would do is once you pull your 3 to 4 pushes, so don't just get crazy, just do some deliberate foiling. Now you've got your nice soft line. Whenever I'm working in a little bit heavier section, I always like to work with my repair tonic too, because that's going to help me to really maximize the saturation here. So again, that soft diffusion up at the top. Our mid strands, and we're just going to fold in our ends. Go ahead and fold that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and ta-da. The last thing I want to share with you, and now I lost my thought. That happens a lot when you get older. All right, my faux balayage here. I always have to do my ABCs. Have you ever tried that? When you're not getting your thoughts and they're leaving you, if you go through your alphabetical, your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, by the time you get halfway through, you usually remember. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our faux balayage. So we would take a channel just like we would below. And just a reminder too, if I wanted that channel thicker, I would take the next slice right over the top and I would go ahead and mimic that same channel. That will give me more of that separation. Now up on the top here, we're going to do just a faux balayage. So I'm just going to pick that section up. We're going to bob and weave really nice and wide. And we're going to go ahead and then take our foil. Again, if you want to use your mask here just to help you keep that foil in place, go right ahead. You're getting a nice conditioning treatment while they're doing that. And we're going to go ahead and lay our foil down right at her colic. Great place to be. And actually I need a longer foil here. So let's use our heavier foil. Again, this would be where I would start doing a foil on foil application if this hair starts to get too long, or in this case, I might be using another color to melt with. A lot of times what I like to do here is to do my clear right up at the top and then kind of fill in my triangle where I'm going to work. The one beautiful thing about, well, I say one of the beautiful things about working with the clear is that whenever you're doing any sort of melting, it has the capability of flushing those impurities out of the hair. So when we use the clear, there's no funny line in between your melt. And even sometimes when we do a highlight, because of the impurities that are in someone's hair to start, you may see that little bit of transition where it gets a little goldy up at the top. Using your clear will help to stop that. It'll soften it because what's going to happen is it's going to flush any of those impurities out of the way. And ta-da! Nice thing is with this, I use this a lot in the salon, and I do enjoy it because sometimes people, they don't want that heavy highlight. They want to see more deliberate pieces. And I get a lot of requests for this, the black and white highlights. I see the picture and it's always that really heavy pieces that we're working with. And then I'm like, okay, so we do some nice balayage techniques. So within the foil, but maybe they're not ready for that full balayage quite yet. Now let's just suppose I'm doing a retouch. Now this was done by using this pie-shaped sectioning. And for those of you, there was a couple of you that were on my class last Monday, and so we had done this pie-shaped fringe work. And when I did this, I actually lifted this, it came up to a really nice level 9. It was perfect. So I thought, so what I did was I toned it using our Pure Rose shampoo and conditioner rather than putting color over it. So I thought, if I was a guest, let's say, and they wanted to maybe try it, a rose gold, this would be amazing to be able to give them that trial time. Or if I was going into maybe a pure violet, pure red tone, like our 5R or 7R, what I could do is pre-tone the hair with the shampoo and conditioner, and then, or just the shampoo, and then I could go ahead and color right over top of it. So that's an option you have too. And I love to pre-tone my highlights with our Pure Blonde. So why not, if you're gonna put a nice vibrant color in, why not do that? So if I pick this up vertically, you can see it looks more like a channel light. So this is perfect for showing you. If I'm going through and I'm doing a touch up or a partial, I'm going to go in and I will actually deliberately pick out my highlights as much as I possibly can. That way, when I go back over, I'm not going back and I'm not heavily highlighting. But then I can go back through with my Purify on anything that I missed or in between. So if they're happy with the amount of highlights that I've done, I could then go ahead and just work in just those pieces and just new growth. Hello? I hear somebody. Let's see if we go ahead and put that one on mute. There we go. All good. Any questions so far? Anything at all? Any thoughts? Ahas? Anything you picked up that was new or different? No? Nobody learned anything? Are you at least having fun? If you're having fun, say so. Put a bunch of aha. I love it. Plan to use all. Good deal. All right, so one last thing I want to show you here, and then we're going to go into some knowledge, and then I'll share a few other things with you as well. If I wanted to do my melt as well, so if I'm working in with just a nice chunkier foil here, I can do that really easily too, just by taking in my color and my lightener. And I think I just did this, but that's okay. But I could even just be creative and maybe I'm picking out every other one. This will give me more of a varied blonde. So if I do that and then go back in with my highlights in between, but just be creative. Sometimes we don't want every piece done, but we want to see something as well. So what if I put a color on every other in between? That would be a fun way to do a highlight as well. If I'm doing that, doing a foil on foil would be a better choice so that I don't mix anything, but have a little fun with it. And I think that's where I have the most fun, is just being creative within my guest's hair, because I don't always want just one solid blonding color. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. What do you mean when you say melt? That's a great question. So what a melt is when I'm melting my color into my lightener. So I would first apply my color and then I apply my lightener. In fact, I'm going to show it to you again just so you can see. Visual will be much better than my sharing it verbally. Okay, so if I take this section, let's do a slice. And a lot of times we'll do these on diagonals. And let's say that I'm actually applying color. So now I'm putting in my color touch up. I'm working with my foil. My color will live from the root area, from the scalp. And let's say I only want my color on the ends. Maybe I even want more of a bead section. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lightener. I'm going to meet the line where I placed my color. So I don't want to blend it quite yet. I'm going to work through my ends with my lightener. So I put a V in here. Then I'll take a fresh brush and I'll blend up and I'll blend down, back up. So it melts one into the other. And you can do a lot of different varieties with this. It could be on a diagonal where you're melting on a high left and then a high right and doing more of these shadow melts. Or if you're doing a faux root, maybe where you're doing just that first inch, you place your lightener up to it and then just taking your brush like that and blending it up and down, it's going to be a really soft transition between the two. And the nice thing with the pure color is that you won't get any funny lines of transition. A lot of times when we do that, there's a really interesting little line and we end up having to do a lot of toning work to take that out. But with the pure color and lightener, you won't have to do that. So hopefully that helped. And cool, well, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint again and we're going to share some more information with you. And with that, we saw a lot of these different things. We saw the highlight and low light living in the same. I didn't show you a vertical, but you get the idea. I'll show you a little bit of that later. Your framework as well, all the way around that hairline can be done with that highlight. And again, you have those different options working with that zigzag, but not breaking through that line will give you that heavier slice look, but softer right at the hairline. And you've got your different options of weaves and slices. And of course, whenever we do different thicknesses, we're going to see different looks. So combine them and use them to be creative with. So the first thing I want to share with you is a little bit more about color additives. And color additives are by far some amazing tools, or liquid tools as I like to call them, that you can use within your color, within your lightener, on the hair directly. So my favorite thing to do with it is to mist the hair down prior to any color application, or I'll mist the hair prior to a lightener application when I'm doing my foils, etc. And I love it because it equalizes the porosity. It helps to strengthen the hair and rebuild it, as well as protect it during the service. Your one shot is going to be a stronger and the strongest form that we make, or of a protein bonder that we use. So it's an amaranth protein. It's a flexible protein, very different than any other proteins on the market. Because it is completely flexible. So you never have to worry about it over proteinizing the hair. It can go directly into your lightener. It can go directly into your color to be able to strengthen as well. And then you have your Basu oil. Your Basu oil is going to be perfect for right after you rinse your color or highlights. Just apply that right into the hair by streaming it right into left, right, and the center. With that, you're going to be able to leave that in, helps to lock down that color. So I love to use it right after I've done my toning as well. And it's perfect for people who get an irritated scalp. So if you have those that are sensitive, you can put it right into your color or lightener, as well as it adds more moisture to the hair. So I use it a lot during my highlights. The colored lightener thickener. This is a universal thickener that can be used in any color, any lightener, and it's perfect because it's a liquid so that we can mix it easily. And you can get a thick application or a thicker application, really depending on what you're looking for. So I use it differently for different applications. Balayage, you would use a thicker application rather than messing with the mix of the actual lightener. To moisturize and brighten, we have our Basu mask as well. And I shared a couple of hot tips there. Again, it has no mineral oil or plastics in it. So when we work with it, you can paint your color or your lightener right over it, and it's still going to saturate that hair. So it's perfect when I'm doing my highlights and I have those ends that are maybe just questionable. The Violet Nourishing Mask is a great addition for those of my blondes who really like that brightening effect. And we can do a nice treatment with that using the Pure Violet Mask and the Basu oil, putting it under the dryer for about 10 minutes. We rinse that one out. And then we also have our Maximum Repair treatment. We can use this prior to lightener, prior to color, and then we color right over top of it. So you would just start by using your Purify shampoo first. You would apply it to the hair dry, add water to it, work it into a lather, and put it under the dryer. Rinse it, apply another lather of the Purify and rinse. Then we add in our one-shot mask and the oil. This stays in the hair, and then we can put it under the dryer with a cap for 5 to 10 minutes. Or a lot of times when my guests don't have time or I don't have time, I honestly, that's why I picked up that habit of using Purify in between my foils or on the ends in my foils. And then when I'm done, I'll apply their Max Repair treatment. And my blondes love this treatment. This is huge for them. And I would say 90% of my color and highlights get a Max Repair following their color. They may not get Purify as it is here in these steps, but I might put it through their ends if I'm not doing a pull through color just to brighten it up. And then I'll do the Max Repair following. So some additional liquid tools you saw that I used for highlighting. I love my Purify in between or on the ends. Your push powder, perfect for slippery hair or doing tease lights wherever you need that grip. Your Basu mask, as we shared, you can paint those through the pre-blonded areas and then highlight right over it. Your Repair Tonic and your Basu oil, again, are perfect tools to have. Now, these are some other great must-haves. I love my Pure Violet to be able to pre-tone the hair prior to toning services. And it just helps with the moringa oil to reduce any of those free radicals that are in the hair. And then from there, I can go ahead and tone with my violets. So I get an even better result. If I'm going with someone who maybe has those highlights that we're going to pre-lighten and then drop a pure tone over top, like a pure red, I can pre-tone with my Pure Blonde Rose shampoo and conditioner. Or I can tone unwanted green tones. I don't know about you, but over COVID, some of my guests were coming in with green tinges from their water in their pipes. I have no idea what it's from, probably copper maybe, but it was depositing this green tone on their hair. And when I took Purify first and then whatever was left, we went ahead and we toned it with the Pure Rose and shampoo and conditioner. Gone. So that was absolutely brilliant. If you're at all nervous, maybe you don't want it to be, you're nervous because it is very potent pink, you could blend it down with another shampoo or another conditioner as well. The Pure Violet toning spray, This is also a great leave-in following your blonding services when they like that icy look. It's also really great for working with if you're pre-lightening as well and you want to use that to help protect a little bit of that hair, misting it on under your lighteners. Or I've actually heard of people using a small amount poured into their lightener for toning. Because it's a fruit pigment and because our pure lightener is gentle, you don't have to worry about it eating up that pigment that's in there. So just some extra hot tips: apply color along the way. I shared that with you just simply by pulling out your highlight and then placing your color down. That has really helped me create more speed for me. Use your pure color for melting with no brass. Clear 00 will create beautiful soft transition from a natural level to our lightener, as well as flush impurities from the hair so that there's a softer line of demarcation. So wherever you're doing your highlights, just by placing that little half, quarter inch in there, you can go ahead and add your clear in there too if you like, and it'll just create a softer line and won't take, you're not going to have that bright all the way up to the scalp if that's not what they're looking for. Use your diagonal folds when you're working in diagonal sections so that the foil can live straight and that it's not in the way of other foils. Use your 00 clear in between your foils to brighten existing blonde as well. Use a Bailey wand. So what that is, if you've never seen one, is my balayage wand, and all we do with it, I'll show you in a second, but we just paint our lightener onto it and then it glides through the section of hair. So I'll do that a lot of times in between my foils as well. And this will take us to building some roadmaps. First, I want to open it up to any questions that there might be or ahas, anything at all. I'm going to check my chat box here. It looks like there was a couple things in the chat box. That is if I can get my menu to come down. Not sure why it's not letting me. There we go. Zero clear without the developer. No, you would still use the enzyme cream activator. You'd use 7 volumes. So great question there. With the framework, can you do a highlight and low light? Absolutely. So if you took your slice and you wove that apart, do your low light on that bottom, highlight on top. Remember, they're in the same line, so they're going to show through together, but you absolutely could do a highlight, low light. Great, love it. All right, so this, I'm going to stop the share and then reshare it because just in case, if for some reason you're not seeing what I'm telling you you're seeing, let me know. Oh boy, sorry about that. Technical challenge when you're working with PowerPoints and Zoom. All right, so this was one of the colors that I had done on a Facebook Live, and this was just decorating the edge. So as you can see in the back, we worked with a brick layer type pattern, and then we worked temple to temple. So we were always working, once we hit the above the ears, everything worked all the way around. So if I am doing, for instance, a highlight that is a partial, I will always work around the head one way, and then my next section I'll work around the other way. I find this works really nice because everything comes up nice and even, but I'll work all the way around and then I'll come all the way back and then I'll keep going. And once I get to the top where there's a top panel, then I can work over the part line. Then that's where I stop. So kind of the same direction here is working all in one. You can see I placed a frame all the way around her hairline. So I got these nice bold pieces in the front. And then in the top, we worked directly across the part line. There's these little corners here on either side are what I call fillers. So, and I'll show you when we get to our next demo, that underneath, if you're always left at the little space, I'll work diagonally across it. So again, you can see this a little bit larger, working it all the way around that frame, giving me the treating the head as a whole, and then working across the part line with our fillers. Here we have our freedom. This was also a Facebook Live I've done. So when I send a recap to your emails, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these videos in there so that you can take a look at the full video and see how we accomplish that. But you can see I'm working in triangles. So working on diagonals and then working a horizontal, working on diagonals, horizontal. And with a freedom, when I want layers, I'm creating a lot of movement. So in the side panels, you can see I'm working on a diagonal, just like I showed you in the back of the head on our mannequin demo. Here, our front and center, this one also was a Facebook Live I did, so I'll get that link as well in there for you. And you can see that I worked horizontally first in the back. So as I'll put my cursor over here. So as I work across here, oops, sorry about that. Those horizontal ones will create a nice blend to the back. Then I worked in vertical to give me more separation within it. And in the top, working across the part line again, creating my filler corners as well. And that will take us into, I want to show you where I'll take this one with our crop haircut. So I'm going to stop the share. And let's see, are there any questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat box. And I'm just going to do a quick demo here of how I would go ahead and place this one being a pretty short haircut. And I flat ironed her first so that it would be easier to foil with, because short foils are always tough. So anytime there's a lot of texture in the hair, if you're not doing a curly balayage or a curly lightener, flat ironing any of those areas, especially in a short haircut, will make things easier for you, because then you'll be able to see the direction that you're trying to work. So as I shared, I would work all the way around the head first. So, and with this, I'm only working really above the ridge line, maybe just a slightly lower. And I like to create a blend with it. So I'll go ahead and give a little bit of an asymmetrical here. So I'm just working in that U shape that is across or around from ridgeline to ridgeline. So we're working side ridge, rear ridge, side ridge. And so I'll start in through the sides. Now in through these sides, I don't really typically like to do too much. This might be where I come in with my painting with my wand later. It's gonna be a much softer blend. So I'm only gonna start here in the back. If that hair is at all slippery too, you can also work with a little bit of your repair tonic, will help support that as well. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up my weave. That's another little way that I'll work with it, is if you notice, I just laid my hand over the top and I'm basically just cherry picking or pulling pieces up. Hold my lip to the back, shiny side to the back as well. This is definitely an area where I will need some help. So I'll go ahead and work with my mask there, or my color, and then I'll go ahead and lay that right over the top. Remember, I'm going for a more blended look here, so my foils are going to be softer, maybe a little more finer pieces as well, and horizontal, because this will help me to create a nice blend. on the sides, what I may do here is work with my balayage wand, because even if I go in with a diagonal foil here, it just might be too much. And we are working with a darker color underneath. So I'll go ahead and take that wand. I've let that lightener live right over the top here. So you just want those little bubbles up at the top. You don't want a whole bunch leaking out. And I am going to work more with the direction of the hair. So here I'll work and just place that wand in and see how I'm just sweeping that down. So I might be more apt to just get a nice soft pop of color, because it's just going to lay right on the top. And you can place down a foil if you like, or a piece of film. What you can also do is take just the little clips, if you have them. Some of these areas are tougher to keep that in place. So I'll just go ahead and keep that foil in there that way. And then that way I don't have to worry about it. Now I would work all the way around the same way, and then I would take another round and come back. So I'm going to kind of take this into a half head, and you can do these as close together or as far away as you like. And of course, that's the beauty of doing highlights. When I get into this front piece, because of the fact that it's short, I may either take my wand through there, because sometimes I like that little bit of a darker piece, or I might start shifting it into a bit of a diagonal. So I'll go ahead and take my next slice, and here I'm just weaving this out. We'll go ahead and place our color or our mask here, or maybe it's Purify. Maybe you're working with Purify to brighten some old color, or your clear. All great options. Without my glasses, sometimes I can't tell which is the shiny side and which is the flat side. All right, again, I applied horizontally first, then vertically, giving it a softer diffusion up at the top. Using my comb to crisp those sides. And then with this front, I may do the same thing, and I'll take my wand. Remember, this is going to be much softer, or you can do like a cherry picking technique where you're just picking out specific pieces and highlighting them too. But this will just give a pop of color underneath. And then what I would do on this side is I'm going to have my panel that works across the part line here. She actually has quite a small head. So again, working with the width of that section. And now I need to do my filler on this side. So I would end up with a small triangle here. There's my ridge line. So these would be working with that wand. And then in the front, because this hair is moving to the front, I'll work on a diagonal. And again, I can take my foil on that high right so that when I lay it down, it's out of her face. So I'll put my mask down. There's my diagonal foil. There's my lightener. If I need to snug that, I can. And then I can go ahead and get it nicely out of her face. easily. But I use that a lot now because that really helps me to keep that hair out of her face while I'm working around the hairline. So again, I'll work on a diagonal. So I'm working on a high right here. Again, filling in that space. You know, be creative. You might be doing maybe a zigzag weave, and then maybe you're doing a slice over the top of it, getting a more bold panel in here to create that money piece, if you like. And then I would finish up with one more here, or however many I needed to fill in this corner. Once I fill in my corner, now I can go ahead and work through my part line. So now I can maybe work dark first. Maybe you're doing a weave of blonde at the front, and then maybe you're doing a slice of dark. So be creative with your placements. Be deliberate. When doing an overlay, how long do you process? I love, that's a good question. Applied to towel dried hair, damp or towel dried. You're going to, either one is, damp is going to be a good one. So towel dry it. Sorry, I can't do two things at once. Give me 1 second. So once I have here, we'll go ahead and then work this all the way across the part line. So that would be how I would work a crop. So I'm going to do my horseshoe. So I'm working all the way around the head, back and forth. Then I do my filler corner, and then I work across the part line. If they're working more of that center part line, you might have a couple on each corner that you're filling in, and then you'll have that work across the total. Okay, so when you're doing an overlay, how long do you process? An overlay can be anywhere from a 5-minute if you just want a sheer deposit, or maybe you're working at 20 to 30 minutes for a full coverage deposit. So it depends. If I'm really wanting to put a deep tone on, I'm probably going to process it that full 20 to 30 minutes. If I'm just doing a toner, it could be, you know, that 5 minutes. I just usually watch it. Apply to towel dried hair. Definitely it's important to squeeze the excess water out, just because the more water that you have in the hair can prohibit that as well, or for depositing as deep of a tone as you want. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. And do you tend to do a bowl on, at the bowl on wet hair, or sit gassed up towel dried hair? So when I do my toners, I usually do at the bowl. It doesn't mean you couldn't do at the chair. I think it depends on, again, how much deposit you want. If you're looking for a really deep deposit of, let's say I bring this up to a nice level 7 and I'm depositing a level 5R, I'm probably going to dry that hair and then apply my color over the top using my repair tonic. That would be definite. If I'm just toning to untone unwanted tones, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take and just do a sheer toner at the bowl. Are you going to do post done pictures? Yeah, I will do that for you when I do my follow-up. All right, so with that, let's go back to my screen here as well. And that didn't work. Oops. Okay, so my front and center you saw. And let's take you through a little bit of pure color knowledge with our remaining time. So nature provides the best ingredients for hair color. And love your color, beautiful, easy, lasting, and healthy. Pure color is perfect as it's an ammonia-free, PPD-free, which is paraphenyldimine, one of the leading causes of allergies in hair color today. It's an antioxidant-rich babassu oil delivery. works with equal primary colors, not too warm, not too cool. And one other important thing to learn here, if it's new to you, is that most color companies work with what are called, they buy their dye couplers and intermediates from the same manufacturer, and then they take those dye couplers and intermediates back to their labs and they make and formulate their own color. We actually formulate our own dye intermediates and our own couplers. That way, what you're getting is all surface, all pure color. It's very unique. When we work with the proteins, you get beautiful attachment of color. It's a bond building color as well. So we're repairing the hair as we're coloring. And we use enzyme cream activators of 720, 30, and 40. We get a lot of questions why 7? The 7 volume is because 10 volume actually gave us too much lift. So we take a look at how hair is lightened and color is deposited. We first have to swell the hair, and then oxidation happens by breaking down the melanins, and then a space is created for that color to live. Color then fills the space. When we use ammonia-based color, we get more swelling and a larger oxidized space. The ammonia-free color gives us less swelling and a smaller oxidized space. So there's less damage, there's better condition to the hair, and there's a smaller space, but the color is then attached to the protein that is inside the hair. With pure color, the ammonia, then we have to swell the hair, but it's ammonia free with the basu oil as its delivery system, which penetrates and moisturizes the hair. We oxidize the hair with an ammonia-free natural gray coverage. By natural gray coverage, what we mean is that hair itself in a natural state, you get 1 to 3 levels of variation within the hair. When you use pure color, you have that translucency of that, it mimics natural hair color as you get a variation of color throughout the hair. The smaller oxidized space allows for dimensional gray coverage rather than an opaque, heavy line of demarcation. Color fills the space, it's PPD free, and it attaches to the protein within the hair with amaranth protein, which is a flexible protein unique to surface. We eliminate free radicals by using an enzyme cream activator or ECA, which is moringa and pectinase. Moringa oil helps to line the fibers of the hair back up. Pectinase enzymes, just like if you were to have apple juice that has been first pressed, it's very cloudy. The pectinase enzymes clear away all the free radicals from the juice. Condition and shine and color reflection happens because we build those bonds in the hair as well as we're flushing all that out. We're lining those fibers up. So the light reflects in one clear direction, giving us beautiful crystalline shine. The maximum color reflection and shine that you see even in curly hair is beautiful because of that protein bonding element. Fading and dull color occur when free radicals or damaged protein live inside the hair and they reflect a dull, flat color. The light bounces in every direction, then causing that hair to appear dull. The solution is our enzyme cream activators as they free the hair of radicals and the hair fiber is lined back up and the hair color is pure, rich, and shiny. The light bounces in one clear direction, giving us a brilliant shine. This is a long-lasting demi and permanent color. Not all ammonia and PPD-free color is created equal. High demi gel, which is surface, lives in between a demi and a permanent. So if I want a demi color, I'll use my 7 volume only as it will just deposit color. There's no lift in the color itself. If I want permanent coverage, I'm going to take my 20 or my 30 volume and mix it with my pure color, giving me up to 2 or so levels of lift, then deposit. I also will add in my thickener as my thickener will help saturate that hair more, giving me that permanent coverage like my other color would do. The pure color is bonded into the hair's protein, and until now, color has only been trapped. Pure color is bonded by working with amaranth protein to bond to the hair's natural protein. The enzyme cream activators with pectinase and moringa oil, again, free all the radicals from the hair. And what that means is that the cuticle layer of the hair is clear. The color lives inside the cortex, and that's where it attaches to the hair's protein. In between the cortex and the cuticle is where free radicals live. And this can be hard water mineral, it can be medications, it can be plastics, it can be chlorine, it could be dust from the air, it could be fragments of protein that were broken from previous color or lightener. And it will sit in between the cortex and the cuticle, clouding the cuticle so you can't see the color that's already placed there. So with that, pure color and the enzyme cream activators flush all that from the hair. Pure color is a natural pure base, which gives us equal parts of red, yellow, and blue. So it fades on tone. So what does that actually mean? Surface neutral is formulated with 1 part red, 1 part yellow, and 1 part blue. If you're using an American formula color now, your formula or neutrals are formulated with 1 part red, 2 parts yellow, and 1 part blue, making it primarily warm. If you're using a European-based color, it may be formulated primarily cool with 1 part red, 1 part yellow, and 2 parts blue. So when they fade, the American one is going to fade warm, where the European formula is going to fade primarily cool. With the surface neutral, it then fades on tone because it is a perfect blend of red, yellow, and blue. From there, we then add in our pure tones, giving you the ultimate maximum creativity. Now, pure color is also a perfect choice for texture and fine, fragile hair because of the protein that we work with and the babassu oil delivery system. So for finer hair types or curly hair types when they're fragile, pure color provides the protein and the moisture that's needed to help keep that hair in best condition. The color charts that we work with are complete with all of our colors. We do continue to add new colors. You'll see that we've added a 4WG, a 6WG, and an 8WG. They have a nice peachy undertone, so they're beautiful blended with our ends. And on the back side, you're going to see a tone and corrective color pigmentation. You'll also see, okay, am I now working with a European color line? What can I mix to be able to create something that is equivalent to it? So we'll give you those blended ratios as well. All the mixing directions are on the bottom. On the left, you can see our pure colors mixed equal parts of color and enzyme cream activator. Our pure lightener is mixed with 1 part powder, 2 parts enzyme cream activator, and then our color and lightener thickener can be done at up to 1/4 of the total weight of your color. So if you're working with a 2-ounce bowl, you can use up to 1/2 ounce. Just so you are aware, if you accidentally added a little too much, it would not hurt anything. It would just be maybe too thick. And on the right-hand side, you also see all the repigmentation for repigmenting the hair or for correcting color. Our newest innovations is our 4WG, 6WG, and 8WG. So right now, as you add those to your collection, if you purchase one of each, you do get a free enzyme cream activator. Your choice, either 7 or 20 volume. And we'll move into some toning in just a quick second here. But first, I wanted to open it up just in case there are any questions on anything that we've already discussed. You can put them in the chat box if you like, or unmute yourself. No questions so far? Alrighty. So when we start to tone with confidence, what we're going to look at is the underlying pigment that is left over. So you can see at level 10, a pale yellow is left, level 6, an orange gold tone is left. So we want to make sure that we really pay attention to how much, what is left over in the hair. As we want to correct unwanted yellow, we would use our violet tones to be able to neutralize it, or blue to neutralize the orange tones, or green to be able to neutralize red tones, or same the opposite way. The underlying pigment, when hair is lightened, there's an underlying pigment left or exposed. So if you desire to tone it and neutralize the exposed pigment, the suggestions below are based on your toner formula, which you can personalize, of course, by blending additional colors. So if you take a look at the level 10, we would recommend 9V and 00, which would give you about a 10 lavender based color. If I'm working with the very light blonde, yellow, 9V, and we then move into light blonde, which then starts to include some orange tones, so 9V and 9B, 7 medium blonde, orange, 7B, dark blonde, red orange, giving us 2 parts of 7B plus 1 part of 5N. Light brown, red was going to give us a 5N to tone with. Medium brown, the suggestion is 2 parts of 5N and 1 part 3N. And then from there, not applicable or not necessary. I'm going to stop here as I saw a question in the chat box, which is how I lost myself a little bit ago. So I will get back to your question in just a quick second. With that, we're going to look at formulating underlying pigment. So the suggested toner here would be a 9V and 9N. There are some through the N, so you always have to remember that when you're toning, you are going to see the level of tone to what you used. So if you truly are at a level 7 and you're using a 9V over the top of it, it's going to be sheer coverage. If you're really trying to tone at that level, then you need to drop your lavender down to that 7V. So here, this was just a suggestion to use 9V and 9N with some 00. If I wanted to get rid of the yellower tones, you can still see, you're going to see some of those yellow underlying. Here, suggested toner 9V and 9B, 7 volume. Here, suggested toner might be 7B and 9B and 7 volume. So I'm going to stop my share here so I can see my questions. What about the silver white that everyone wants? That is a great question and always such a difficult process. When you're working with those guests that really want that silver tone, usually that 9V and 9B and a 00 are going to give you that great silvery finish to it. But what you have to remember is that it has to be extremely light. There has to be no yellow left in that hair. So sometimes it's a very difficult color to achieve and can take some time to get there. So we just have to be patient in the lightening process and the health of the hair in order to get to those results as well. Any other questions or things that I can address here? No? All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull my screen back up and there we go. So let's just talk a little bit about gray coverage. Here you can see some great results with 30% gray and doing more of gray blending. So they used 5N and our 7 volume enzyme cream activator here and processed for 35 minutes. Here we're looking at gray coverage. So we are using 9N, 2 parts 7N, and they used 20 volume enzyme cream activator processed for 45 minutes. And this one as well, and I know this woman know that she has quite a lot of gray. With it, we had half a part of 5N, quarter part of 7N, quarter part of 7C, and 20 volume processing for 35 minutes. So one of the things that you really need to look at, just like we do when we're looking at toning, there are 10 levels of hair color, so there are also 10 shades of gray. And so when you're looking at your gray guests, make sure that you're choosing the right level of coverage for their gray hair. Choosing a level 9 on blonde is only going to give you a level 9 coverage. Here, we've got 2 levels of gray, which means I need 2 different formulas. And I do have a guest that looks just like this. And in the front, in order to maintain a level 7, I have to go deeper in her front section with a level 6 to match the level 7 in the back. So really, it just gives you an idea that you may need to work with 2 different formulas. Just like when you're working with toning, you may need 2 different formulas when you're toning your blondes. Some natural gray coverage and blending help here. Gray blending is recommended for 30% or less gray. Use 7 volume and average processing time 20 minutes. Use your 30% or plus 30% gray. You're going to go ahead and use 20 volume, average processing time 35 minutes. If you have really resistant gray or the gray is 50% or more, formulate with at least 50% of your N series and then introduce additional desired tones. Use your Pure Color thickener for those permanent coverages and gray coverage as it increases the saturation and wraps the pigment around the hair for deeper deposit. Apply to the most resistant areas first, such as your temple area. Once you've completed the entire application, apply a second coat to that resistant area. I may even sometimes work a lighter on that first coat and then deepen it with a second coat of a level darker. So I have a couple that I do that with. Use 30 volume enzyme cream activator as Pure Color is gentle lifting. Your 20 volume will give you about 1 level of lift. Your permanent color, normally you have lift in your tube, you have lift in your enzyme or your activators or developers. So when you're using Pure Color, it's not an aggressive lift. So if it's stubborn, 30 volume is my choice to use for my stubborn grays. And I'll process up to 50 minutes with them. You can mist the hair with Repair Tonic prior to your application. This also helps by creating additional structural protein to the hair as the protein becomes attached to the hair's protein. And then this way I get better coverage as well. Here's some hot tips for you. Add a G to your formula. Adding about 1/4 to 1/2 ounce of G in your color formula will help to anchor that coverage, especially in resistant gray hair. Formulate a 1/2 level deeper, a cap full of deeper pigment or a cap full of deeper pigment to your formula. This will also richen that color a bit, giving you more gray coverage. If you have really stubborn hair and you're noticing areas that are not covering as well, purify the hair beforehand. You can put Pure Color on clean hair, and a lot of my guests, I coach them to do purify before they come in for their hair color. So if you don't have time to do it there, it might be something great to coach them to do at home. Add basu oil to the hair color prior to in that area where you have that resistant gray. That will help aid in a deeper delivery into the hair as well. You could put a plastic cap onto the hair just to maintain warmth, especially if your guest doesn't carry a lot of body heat, and use multiple formulas if you need to. So here's an example of one of my guests. You can see that she is about 80% gray up there through the top. We do highlights as well. So those lighter pieces you're seeing as her after are highlights. And then for her base, we use a 3N, about a 1/2 ounce, an ounce of 5N, a 1/2 ounce of 5R, and a 1/2 ounce of 5G. She gets beautiful coverage. We use 30 volume, plus I always use the thickener. I process her for 50 minutes. Her highlights are then toned with 7 and 9NB. So choosing ammonia-free bond building color, again, beautiful for all hair types and a must for curly or fragile hair. The tools that we worked with today are all dipped in tourmaline and Kawasaki crystals, which gives us no static onto the hair when we're working, helps to close down the cuticle. And I love my brushes and board because they are recyclable and they are made with sustainable ingredients that are recycled as well. They are biodegradable, so I don't have to worry about putting them back into the environment. Some treatments that we discussed today were the surface repair treatment or max repair treatment. Again, those steps are purifying the hair first, towel drying it, squeezing the excess water out, and then adding one-shot mask and oil. These are some of the great results that you can see with it. Sorry. And just how beautiful that hair looks like glass. It looks shiny. It has a beautiful strength to it. It's the ultimate in repair. And you never have to worry about compromising your color. You never have to worry about compromising the hair from additional proteins. The clear that we use today could also be done as a clarity shine treatment, mixing equal parts of 7 volume and 0,0. What this does is it helps to line those fibers of the hair back up, helps to clear that free radicals from the inside of the hair, providing a brilliant clear reflection and a beautiful shine. Just like a lady's diamond, if the hair has cracks in it or it has broken cuticle, that hair can look dull or flat as the light bounces in many directions. But if we have that clear crystalline shine, those from that flawless hair. And the solution here is working to clear the free radicals. That moringa oil and pectinase enzymes do that for us. So with that, all you have to do is mix equal parts, apply it to dry or damp hair. I suggest using your repair tonic as well to help that move easier through the hair. And if you want to, you can take them to the bowl and clarify using your Purify first, mist the hair with Repair Tonic, and apply at the bowl. Either way, you'll process it for 15 to 20 minutes. You'll shampoo it down with Trinity shampoo and conditioner, and you can see even the richness, especially in this color to your right, how that works beautifully. The deep nourishing mask treatment, perfect for your blondes that just love that brilliant shine to it. The maki berry in the nourishing mask is very light, so there's no toning value that happens. It can be used on any blonde. It's perfect for everyone. And what it does is it helps to provide moisture by attaching it to the hair's protein deep inside where that porosity lives. And it gives us that brilliant shine. And to do the treatment, super easy. Step 1, you use your Basu shampoo, or if they like that toning value, you can use Pure Violet shampoo. You'll then squeeze the excess water out, apply mask and oil liberally to the hair. If you have that time to put them under the dryer 5 to 10 minutes, perfect. And then you would rinse that out and take them to your chair. Again, you can see the beautiful results here as well. And our at-home care is super easy. Really having them work with either the Trinity Shampoo Color Care for maximum color extension with the moringa oil, and Basu shampoo and mask for your blondes as well. Your Pure Violet right now is perfect options for your guests to be able to use that toning at home, either with the rose tones for champagne pinks to magentas, or your violet tones for those silvery purple tones. Education that is coming up soon, and then I'll jump into some questions. But our global forum is coming up in October, and we would love to see you there. We'll be sharing our 2022 collection. We have some special guest speakers, inspirational speaking from Lindsay Curtis, Shauna, as well as Sean, and we have a special guest, Daniel Mason Jones, who'll be joining us as well. And then from here, our Vimeo channel, you also have extended education at all times. So this is perfect for you to be able to learn all you want to learn about surface cutting, coloring, finishing, treatments, you name it, it's there for you. And then we have some great digital education with myself coming up on Monday, April 5th. I will be sharing Flawless Finishing with you from 10 to 11. And Monday, April 19th from 10 to 2, we have a Pure Color certification happening. This is a hands-on program. So a mannequin is sent to you. I will be coaching you throughout the class. There's a limit of 10 guests to this event unless it's a salon. Then we can provide an additional coach there on hand, but you could still watch me teaching it. And with that, there is some links I'll be posting on my Facebook page today for registry. We'd love to see you at both of these, especially if you really want to learn absolutely everything about Pure Color. This is a great place to get your certification done. As you can see, we've got digital education scheduled throughout the year. All kinds of different options. There's some cutting coming up. There's curls coming up, our New Earth collection as well. And I'm going to stop my share right here and get these questions that were in the chat box. Love the grade comparison. Awesome. Yes, we have to make sure that we really identify that. And could you do a clarity shine treatment at the bowl following a root retouch? Absolutely. Especially, if you're just doing, shampooing the ends. A lot of times if I would shampoo the whole thing first and then maybe shampoo your ends if you want to do purify that way. But something else you could do is you could put purify on the ends during the color process and then do your clarity after. Or you can just do the clarity shine treatment while you're processing your color. So there's just definitely some options, just depending. I always have to think about how much buildup is in the hair. What am I trying to get rid of and control? If I'm really wanting to get rid of those hard water minerals and things first, I'll do my purify on the hair dry with the color processing, and then I'll take and do a clarity over the whole thing. I just ordered more surface color brushes. Was the clear handle brushes older style than the bamboo ones? When do I use the clear ones? One thing I like about the clear ones, they have that little hook on the end, so you can do more cherry picking with it. So I actually like to pick out my highlights or foil with it too, if I'm doing heavier chunks. So that one's really nice. I also like it for heavy hair painting as well. So that's definitely, you could use them for retouch. I think they're great for a lot of things. They are recyclable, but they wouldn't be biodegradable as the new ones are. Any other questions or things that I can answer for you? If you enjoyed the class, type your comments below. I would love to hear from you. You guys are also quiet today, but I love to be able to share with you. So I hope that you'll join me for more virtual education in the future. And I want to thank you guys for joining me today to learn a little bit more about highlights. I'm sure you gained at least 1 or 2 things that you can take back to the salon with you to be able to enhance your experience with your guests. So thank you all and have a wonderful day. The recording will be available. I will email you all with the recording so that you can rewatch it again as well. So thanks guys and have a great day.